All right, welcome to the Two Sons podcast. Happy Monday, everybody. I say Monday because we are recording this on a Mondays to save Wednesday morning for a Star Wars day.
Andor day.
Andor plus maybe Thrawn day if Luke finishes the book.
Dude, I'm going to finish it. I've got 2 hours left.
Okay. Yeah, you got that.
I can do it.
You got that. It's 2 and from
I'm listening
work
to
one
it
day.
quickly, too.
It's good. You're going to like it, and we're excited to get back into it. We haven't done Star Wars in like 3 weeks for various reasons. We're also starting an outside, we're trying outside today. We'll see how it goes. If you guys could subscribe to the YouTube channel, we'd sincerely appreciate it, as well as following us on all of our socials. I always put a link at the underneath the video that just kind of takes you to a link tree that has all of our different pages and stuff like that. Very interesting episode. There was Numenor and the queen consort of Numenor experiencing visions of some massive tidal wave that would destroy their people, and the elf clearly is associated with that image,
Right.
Because she straight up tells her that.
That's part of like the prophecy.
Yep.
Or whatever.
There's a bunch of other stuff that happens in Numenor. We also have the first sighting and conversation with Adar, and some interesting stuff there that almost reminded me of like religious zealot type stuff.
Oh, tell me about that. What do you mean?
Yeah, so let's just start there. So there's a line that he said to Arondir that was really interesting to me, because remember, Arondir works. He's loyal to the Valar. And the Valar are these like supernatural beings that are above the elves, but below the one true God, that are good, except for one, which was Morgoth, right? And obviously Sauron served Morgoth. And there was this massive war that took place in the past where Morgoth won again, and the other Valar actually participated in the war and they defeated Morgoth. But in that specific context, you know, you never think of Sauron as being like a representative of some sort of belief system. You just think of him as evil.
Oh, I see.
And what was really interesting is he looks at Arondir and he says, like, it would be impossible for me to untangle the web of lies that you've been told.
Oh, I hear you.
You remember that line?
Yeah, uh-huh.
And it was almost like, it kind of reminded me of like just general, every single person who's raised in some sort of religious belief system, and you and I were both raised in church, like, you're told a lot of things growing up, and it kind of forms your worldview in a lot of different ways. And both of us have ventured out and tried different things and ended up where we ended up, and we don't have to get into that. But the point is like it was interesting to see Sauron, and we don't actually know if Adar is Sauron, by the way. I believe he is. I believe it's Sauron impersonating a human that has that's kind of more of like a priest or a wizard or something along those lines. But it was interesting to see that being kind of present Morgoth's side of the story as like hey, you've been lied to.
Right.
We are in the right. Rather than we're evil and they're good. You know what I mean?
Right. But clearly he's evil, right?
Yeah,
it's like one of those like crazy people that are like, this is a religion that I created, and come join me and drink my Kool-Aid, right? It was definitely like the orcs are definitely bad.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think their behavior speaks for themselves.
Yes,
yeah,
most definitely.
It is. Adar's overall appearance is somewhat malicious, I would say, and that's being kind, I think.
I hear you.
But that was an interesting dynamic. He sends Arondir back with a message, very Game of Thrones-esque, but it made some sense to me. He sends him back and he says, you know, tell your people that they can stay on their lands if they swear fealty to me, basically. And what was interesting there is we think of the battle for Middle-earth as this kind of straightforward conflict, like Sauron and the army of orcs versus everybody else. But that's not the case, because not only were the men in the Southlands allied with Morgoth, but in Lord of the Rings, if you remember, there's the men from the east, is what they call them, and it's the guys with the ships and they're guys on the elephants. Remember,
right?
Sauron had allies.
Yeah,
and so at the end of the day, this is kind of more like a game of Risk.
Well, and he still does have allies.
Yes,
which we learn.
Yes, exactly.
At the end of the show.
And so at the end of the day, like it's. Oh, you're talking about the guy that talks to the kid.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a whole other thing.
That was creepy, right?
Yeah, that's a whole.
The kid is this close to just being a weirdo,
dude. Oh, and I could see him totally being a disciple.
That sword
of
is. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, but like the
hilt,
point
I
there
mean.
is like Sauron is actively in the pursuit of allies,
Mm-hmm.
or I should say Adar, who very well could not be Sauron, but I believe is.
Right now, all of our viewers are just screaming, "It's not Sauron!" They're freaking out. Okay, if we're wrong, we're wrong. Everybody.
Yeah, exactly,
Again.
guys. I am wrong all the time. Like it's what I do for a living is be wrong about things. But okay, so let's get to the sword. This kind of reminded me of Star
Or
Wars
the hilt?
a little bit.
The
hilt.
Mm.
You remember in Star Wars, like with the Sith, and it's kind of more in the books than it is in the movies. But like, there's kind of like this. It was in the Bane book. Do you remember how they always talk about like these objects that are like imbued with like dark side energy,
Right.
And they kind of are
It's
like
a perfect example.
artifacts. Like it's
An
clear that
artifact.
this sword represents something like that for Sauron.
For sure,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And then the kid find it, and then of course it's black magic because it's fueled on blood, like
Your
it starts to
own blood.
grow.
Like you have to like
It starts,
the thing into your
and then the guy had a scar. Was that because he had the hilt, or was that a different scar?
Yeah, so I think it seems to me like he's literally jamming the butt of the sword into his own forearm, and then it's coming in because the sword becomes a sword once on accident when blood accidentally hits it,
Right.
but then the second time he needs it, he like straight up stabs himself with it and
Yeah.
then goes. So it's clearly like this weird, like sort of like black magic, like curse yourself to curse the enemy,
Right.
type of deal. But the orcs immediately get up and whipped up in a frenzy, like we found it. Like it's like
Right.
the thing that they're looking for.
That scene was so cool. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm enjoying all the orc scenes so much.
Mhm.
What's the dog called that the orcs have?
Wargs.
The warg. Okay.
Do you remember wargs from the original
I do.
trilogies? Okay.
So the wargs, they put so much attention to detail on the warg's eyes. Did you notice that? Not so much this episode, but the episode before that, when Arondir is fighting it, and it's zoomed up on the warg's face, and the eyes are just so crazy. They're so freaking crazy. Like they put so much effort into that, and it was just so neat to watch.
Luke is so incredibly observant to this kind of thing. I did not stare into the warg's eyes a
Dude,
single
I'm
time,
telling you,
which is
it's-
something that I
it's
probably should do.
It's worth your time to go, not this episode, but the episode before, to go and look at the warg's eyes. It's legitimately creepy.
Well, and again, this is what the best that money can buy in terms of CGI.
True, just drop a quick billion on some war guys.
Yeah, drop a quick billy on some fake devil dogs that attack things. But yeah, the Arondir stuff with Adar was super interesting. He goes back and he delivers the message.
Yeah.
Now I think we're headed towards our first major battle because Adar is informed that the sword hilt exists, that the kid has it, that he escaped, and that he's headed towards whatever they call that wall.
Like tower.
Yeah,
thing.
I can't remember exactly what
It's
they
like
call
a stronghold.
Yeah,
of
so yeah,
sorts.
something northeast, something tower, something whatever. So
This is all biblical, by the way. This is we 100% are good with our names. Google it. Tower wall stronghold.
dude, I literally watch NBA basketball every single day of my life, and I can't tell you how many times I'm like, who's that dude who plays small forward for the watch? Like, what? I just with names, dude. It's like, and people all the time will be like, Jason has the most amazing memory. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I forget
Especially
the
things where we're
simplest
not
things.
experts in. Like this is us just being fans of
Yeah,
this
it's we're
type
being
of
fans.
content, right? Like we're just being fans. Like
Fantasy fans.
Star Wars, I think we're probably a little bit more knowledgeable. I'd say.
Yes.
Actually, a lot of it.
But
more
even
knowledgeable.
then, even in Star Wars, I'm willing to acknowledge that there are people that know a hell of a lot more than we do.
for sure.
Yeah.
We just happen to be talking about it.
Yeah, and it's definitely the thing that we like and care about the most, without a doubt.
100%.
But yeah, I think our first battle is going to be the orcs attacking that complex,
I
and
see.
it'll remind.
Oh, that's
I
gonna
think
be
it's
so
going to
cool.
be. I think it's going to be an interesting callback to Helm's Deep, because Helm's Deep was kind of like a big wall with a big tower, and they were also vastly undermanned. If you remember, they had a few thousand elves, a few thousand men against I think like 30,000 or some crazy number of Uruk-hai, which were like evolutionary advanced orcs combined with like trolls. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they were orcs and I think it was like orcs and goblins combined or something crazy like that made those big strong looking like beast of orcs that marched on Helm's Deep.
Dude, and that
I think it'll be
battle's
that
gonna
kind of vibe.
Insane, I bet. We were just talking about how much money they invested into Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah.
I bet they're gonna go ham on that first big battle scene.
Well, every single one of those scenes ends up becoming this like iconic moment. Like for instance, the Battle of the Bastards in Game of Thrones, which you've never seen and you have to see, or the Battle of the Blackwater Bay, which you've never seen and you have to see, or the Battle of Winterfell. Like they become these iconic moments in the show, and that's literally what that first battle will be. It'll be the first iconic battle of this Lord of the Rings series, and I'm definitely very excited for it. So going back to the men at Numenor.
Yeah, Numenor.
So the queen invokes some sort of right to see the king, which gets her thrown in jail. Galadriel does, yes. Which that's right. Galadriel invokes that with the queen, which gets her thrown into jail. When she shows up, she breaks out. She ends up getting into this king's room, and the queen finds her there. Galadriel just seems completely intent on just wrecking shit as much as humanly possible to get what she needs. Like she just sees no barrier.
She's not terribly politically correct.
No, she's not. No. Like she's willing to start a war if it means she beats Sauron, because that's just we also have to fight the Numenorians now, or whatever it is. What was really interesting there, I thought, was this general belief system in fate and the reality of your responsibility, because Galadriel makes a very pointed plea to the queen consort, like, I need your help, here's why. You've seen this mark of Sauron, I've seen this mark of Sauron, It's obvious he's still out there. This is a map of the Southlands. We need to return what's his face? The guy who's the king of the Southlands. I'm forgetting his name.
Holland? No.
Like we said,
Game of Thrones and names.
Well, like literally, they need to move that Halbrand. That's right. They need to return him to the Southlands so that he can be king there, and all these different things. And what's funny is,
even though he doesn't want to be,
even though he clearly doesn't want to be, he just
Numenor.
He just wants to vibe. He just wants vibes.
He just wants some beer money. Just.
But like, what was so funny is like, the queen consort is like, no, for obvious reasons. Like, I can't just go to war based on your random kind of like thought. But hey, there's kind of like a weird moment of respect there though still, and she pays back that respect. Like, hey, even though you've been incredibly disrespectful, even though you've threatened to murder everybody on your way out the door, even though you actually did whoop a bunch of people's asses on your way out of the jail cell, I will take you back to your home with an armed guard.
Right.
And then when she sails away, the petals start falling off the tree.
From the white tree, yeah.
And there's a really cool moment because they clearly skip ahead in time, some amount of time, to when they've now returned Galadriel to the main building, and Elendil is making announcements in the streets.
Yeah.
And the queen consort is making announcements in the building, and it's like, we are going to ally with the elves to go to war one last time.
100% bought in.
Yeah, and like what was cool about that is you think about it as the last alliance between elves and men. We got to see how it actually happened.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was kind of a cool vibe.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Overall, I thought that this was a really neat episode, and I think you're right. I think it is going to lead into a huge battle scene, and I think they're going to invest incredible amounts of time and money into it.
Do you think that they'll have to defend that first stronghold without the help of Galadriel and the men of Numenor?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would think that that's like a next night type deal by the orcs.
Oh yeah, I think they're going to move quickly and get in there and march in force, and then by the time that they actually get to the Southlands to help, it'll be some other sort of predicament. My guess is that fortress is going to fall.
I would like to think so too. I think they're just going to escape narrowly, is my guess. Or I think they're going to escape. So what kind of blew my mind is
the kid's going to escape, right?
I'd like to think so, with the hilt.
Yeah, or he's going to just straight up become like Sauron's like right-hand man. I don't know.
Sure, they just let him keep it. They're like, hey, you like the hilt? You want to keep using it?
You're doing pretty great with it, bro.
Well, it blows my mind because when I think of the orcs, I think of just vicious creatures, right? I literally think of them as creatures, not sentient beings, right? So, and then it was interesting in this last episode because they're actually mourning the loss of their brother, right? So he had died, and then Adar comes in, and it's actually almost a touching moment, other than the fact that they're orcs, and that kind of changed the way I thought about orcs.
That was a really interesting scene with the way it made you feel about orcs. Yeah,
right. It was kind of like Well, no.
Like they're loyal. They have a belief system. They're loyal. They
do.
Yeah, pain and suffering. And
it
all
kind
those
of reminded
things.
me of the way that I changed the way I viewed Sand People from Boba Fett series.
That's an interesting comparison. Yeah.
Like I'm pro Sand person. I can't say I'm quite pro Orc at this.
Well,
point.
it's a great point because they kind of paint them as savages in the original kind of like context of Star Wars.
Right.
Like they're just literally out on the ridge, just shooting at the pod racers while they go by.
But like, long story short, I was surprised that they even took Arondir as a prisoner and they didn't just kill him on the spot when he started acting up. So apparently they have the capacity to take prisoners like that and just not
Compassion
kill people.
and that
Well,
kind of stuff,
compassion's one thing. It's
compassion's
more of, like,
probably not the right word.
It's more
but-
like logistical, right?
Yeah, like the cunning. Like, hey, we send this guy back, we might be able to gain allies.
Right.
Yeah, rather than having to fight them.
Which that's already going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so that's interesting. So let's say the battle does happen next episode. We've got the guy he was like the bartender, right?
I think he was the bartender. You're talking about the guy that's loyal to Sauron.
Yeah, the guy who's loyal to Sauron.
That's manipulating the kid. The guy that's
Exactly.
manipulating the kid. Yeah.
Can you imagine having orcs storming that stronghold and then having that guy in there with you? That'd be the
dude.
worst.
He's like,
So-
he's liable to open the gates up.
He is. But he'd probably open them up and then just get killed by the orcs.
He's like,
You
laying
heard it
there
here
on the ground.
first,
He's like,
folks.
I did this for you, Sauron. You might be right there, though.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. That definitely something that could happen.
That very well could end up being what happens. Durin is the last thing we gotta hit on here.
We haven't touched on that, huh? I love him.
Super interesting stuff here. So I already have my theory because I remember what happened in Lord of the Rings really, really well. But what did you make of that whole concept of the secret mine and the confrontation between Elrond and Durin and the father? I'm just curious where your head is at because I have a really strong opinion here, but I want you to go first.
Is this the thing where they dig too far and then they unearth
The demon.
the mountain demon? Yeah, I think that's a nice little intro into that, isn't it?
Yeah, so in Game of Thrones.
Really quick though, on
Go
a
ahead.
superficial level, that ore that they found looks dope.
It does look dope. It's very like lightsaber crystal-esque.
It is.
That's especially the size that he was holding. Did you think that?
Elena's exact words, kyber crystal?
We've done irreparable damage to our lives. Our wives. We've turned them into complete weirdos.
I know. Well, and all of our nerd friends want to marry our wives so bad.
Oh, dude.
From that one TikTok video that went viral. Is how many people just like
It's
I
like
will marry
you
your
don't
wife.
understand. They hate that we're like this.
Anyways, superficial level, that ore looks sweet, but
Yes.
I think it does lead into the possibility of unearthing that demon that you're talking about.
Well, it was interesting on a bunch of different levels. So first of all, do you remember when Frodo makes it to, and gosh, you may not remember this at all, but do you remember when Frodo arrives at Rivendell in Fellowship of the Ring, and Aragorn takes him there, and they have the Council of the Ring, and Frodo speaks up. He's like, "I will take it." Remember, and then when all the people are bickering about who's going to take the ring to Mount Doom, Frodo speaks up. Blah blah blah, all that stuff. Well, there's a moment in that scene where I believe Bilbo is the one who gives it. But Bilbo Baggins is super old, laying in his bed, right? And he's still messed up by the ring because at one point he's like, "Give it to me, I want to hold it one last time." Remember? But like Bilbo goes, he's like, "This is a chainmail that's made out of mithril, and it's light as a feather,
that's what it
and
is.
it'll block any arrow or sword. Like you should wear it." Blah
That's
blah
what
blah.
it is.
At one point, Frodo gets stabbed by a ring wraith, and he's wearing the mithril, and it actually I don't think it's actually the. No. He gets stabbed in the mines of Moria by the giant troll with the thing right in his chest, and the mithril saves his life. Literally,
That's what the ore is
That's
that
what it
they're
was.
finding. Yeah.
And if you remember, Durin says like, hey, would you call it gray something?
They called it like
gray
glitter.
Gray glitter?
Gray glitter or
yeah.
something? Yeah.
But then he goes like, but it's also known as like Mithro, something
He says
like
it
different.
incorrectly.
Mithron Eurodo? No, I'm just kidding.
Mithron Eurodo. So that just went completely over so many people's heads.
Yeah. If you're a Star Wars Thrawn fan, then you'll obviously get the joke. But
if you're a Thrawnanite like we are.
Thrawnanite. I am a self-professed Thrawnanite. But like Elrond speaks up and goes, it should be called Mithril or whatever. And you kind of see, and there was a couple of different things there that were interesting to me. So first of all, the danger of the mine. Durin's father is like, we can't do this anymore. Durin's clearly pro doing it. But it's clear that at some point Durin succeeds in convincing them to do it.
He's just going to head in.
And that releases the Balrog and literally destroys the entire dwarf community that's living in Moria. But the second side of it that I thought was interesting is the elves and the dwarves despise each other in the Lord of the Rings. There's some animosity between the elves and dwarves at this point, but it's
like the elves and everybody. Everybody hates the elves.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. Is like it seems more like just like normal elf hate rather than like severe elf hate, right? So what's interesting there is like the elves clearly get their hands on some of this stuff because they make the chainmail, right, and various other mithril things. So I remember Durin swears him to secrecy about it.
He does. He swears on his whole entire lineage.
Yeah. I wonder if Elrond botches that or if some other elf does, because clearly the elves end up getting their hands on a bunch of that stuff.
True.
And I wonder if that ends up being the ultimate falling out between the dwarves and the elves. Is them like somehow like stealing the mithril or like mining it themselves or what the deal is, but something there is out of place, I thought.
Well, they spent a lot of time on that like swearing ceremony with the hand on the mountainside.
Dude.
Way too much time. So I would not be surprised if you're right.
Dude, it was intense. And the Dwarf King was cool. That moment between him and Durin, and
that
like,
was cool.
That was a cool.
That was
like,
ultimate
moment.
dad move.
Total dad move.
Just being a great father.
Yeah, it's like I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. He didn't actually say that, but that was kind of the vibes that I got.
No, it was. But then it was cool because then he spun it around. He asked him for his take on the elves and what he thought about them. And
what do you feel? I feel a little weird about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an exact quote.
You gotta trust your guts. I'm picking up some weird vibes.
This is some super weird vibes from the elves.
Did you have anything else in your notes from that episode?
That was it.
All right, guys. That is all we have for tonight. As always, I sincerely appreciate your guys' support. So does Luke. And we will see you guys on Wednesday for Star Wars Day.
And it turns out that I'm looking at the video camera right now, and the quality is not great.
We're going to pump up the brightness on this, and it's going to be just orange people.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, we'll see you guys on Wednesday.